Our next industry session, session 2, is on making sustainability a reality, HVAC solutions powered by Carrier. The session will focus on how corporates are making sustainability a reality today and ensuring investments towards sustainable development, and also explore the role of the chiller plant room in improving the overall energy efficiency of commercial buildings. Please join me in welcoming our executive speakers for this session. Mr. Chirag Baijal, Chairman AEEE and Managing Director HVAC India Region Carrier. At Carrier, Mr. Baijal is responsible for managing and growing the Carrier and Toshiba business in India and other SAARC countries, besides being a part of the Asia Leadership Council of Carrier. He is co-chairman of the National Council on Manufacturing and Capital Goods of ASSOCHAM and espouses the ideal of ethical leadership and profit with purpose. Our next executive speaker, Mr. Baijal. Sir. Our next executive speaker, Mr. Dheeraj Wadhwa, Director, Commercial and Overseas Business at Carrier. Having joined Carrier in 2005, he has managed increasing responsibilities over the long tenure, which includes leading, growing, and consolidating HVAC businesses for the India region. His passion to foster a culture of energy efficiency in his area of domain knowledge encourages him to jointly work with HVAC fraternity to share the same knowledge with stakeholders from application segments at suitable platforms for their beneficial use. Mr. Wadhwa, welcome. Ms. Richa Chabra, Marketing and Communications Specialist at Carrier with more than 12 years of experience. Welcome, Ms. Chabra. And last but not the least, Mr. Srikanth, Group Head Procurement at DLF. Mr. Srikanth is a professional with 26 years of work experience in various areas related to general management, procurement, contracts, and project management in the power sector, real estate, construction industry, and the manufacturing domain. Over the years, Mr. Srikanth has worked with organizations such as the Deutsche Babcock, India and Germany, Shobha Limited, India and Dubai, and Puravankara Limited in Bangalore.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to be here amongst all of you, and AEEE giving me the opportunity to speak on such a critical subject and topic, which is probably the most hot topic for us, not just as an HVAC fraternity, but also as a country today, and what we saw in the budget yesterday, which is related to the energy conservation, renewables. It's sort of in demand and supply piece gets connected. So we'll be talking a much smaller portion out of that piece today. I'm privileged also to have Mr. Srikanth with us from DLF, who solicited to speak on the subject on how their organization is changing with the changing requirements of the leasing space and the way customer today looks at and the expectations on what they need from the buildings where they operate from. Thank you, Chirag and Richa, for being there with us. So, as a leading global provider to save sustainable and healthy buildings, we at Carrier do not take this as just work, but also as a responsibility to design better buildings as much as possible from our side to give it back to planet and people. So much so that 3 years back, almost 3 years back, in early 2020, when we got ourselves listed as an independent company at New York Stock Exchange, this became our vision also, to give it back to our people and planet through our solutions, what we are designing in the HVAC world. So when we look at these pieces and try and put them together, we have so many reports, independent studies, which help us understand that 40%, close to a 40% greenhouse gas emissions related to energy are coming out of buildings. So much so, to an extent of close to 15% of these emissions, HVAC is responsible for. So is this a problem? When Carrier looks at it, we feel that this is an opportunity for us to try and connect this to our vision and connect it to our ESG goals. And that's what we took as when we got listed ourselves as an independent company. So if you look at this slide, it speaks about what we decided to pick up as our ESG goals and where we stand today, because we believe that until and unless we measure them, we will not be able to control and reach to the target what we have set for ourselves. So first and the foremost piece, we decided that we will help our customers through our solutions and services, help them save 1 gigaton of greenhouse gas emissions or carbon equivalent by 2030. So if you look at where we stand today, it's close to about 137 million carbon equivalent is what we have been able to achieve till date. So we have a distance to cover, but the good part is that we have set ourselves an aggressive target and we are measuring it. That's pretty important for us. When you look at the second piece, we also committed ourselves that we'll be investing a sufficient and subsequent a sufficient amount of investment in designing our new products and technologies and solutions, and in that we have almost invested in first 3 years close to a quarter of what we decided to invest. And that helps our customers also in a way to achieve their objectives around sustainability. So that's the second piece which we picked up for ourselves. The third one, we need to walk the talk. If we are committed ourselves to help our customers save what they want to save, we have to also look at our own operations. So we committed ourselves to try and become carbon neutral by the end of 2030. Other than that, we also look at inclusion and diversity, which is pretty important and close to our heart. So we looked at, can we have a gender parity when we look at the leadership roles? So there also we have moved a distance from where we started. Last but not the least, which I started from in the beginning, is we are trying to engage ourselves in a lot of activities and events wherein we see that we are able to contribute to the society back. This one happens to be one such event wherein we are making an effort to see that how can we, through our thoughts, through our efforts, through our initiatives, can help others also to pick the right things up for themselves. This is something which I spoke about from a Carrier global perspective. Now back home in India, what is it that we are doing? From a manufacturing facility perspective, I'm again happy to share that our manufacturing facility here in India in Gurgaon, that is now an IGBC platinum rated facility. It's a facility which is as old as about 30 years plus, but we have been constantly working around that facility to see that how do we keep improving the functioning over there, and some of what you see in the below piece on the left hand side, we have been able to reduce our water usage by as much as 35%. An equivalent amount of reduction what you see is in the greenhouse gas emissions inside our operation facility. Likewise, on the waste recycle, that's an achievement which I say that it's very phenomenal for us. Close to 97% of our waste is what we are able to recycle. This is what we are doing in-house. What is it that we are doing towards the community? So we all understand and we all observe and see, particularly in North who live out here, we see the amount of pollution we have, we see the amount of air quality we have with us. So there we are, through our initiatives, trying to create more awareness amongst the masses. Again, a lot of events which we are trying to do with organizations which are non-profit organizations, and try and see that we create more awareness. One such effort, what we have been able to do is put some air monitors here in the NCR region, particularly in Gurgaon, wherein people are able to understand that what quality of air they are breathing and living in, and what is it that they can do from their side and thus contribute back. So that's one piece. Another important area where I've been working is working with the student community, what comes from the schools. These students have got a lot of good ideas, but are they able to get a good platform to come with them? Are they able to execute those ideas? So we, from our side, are encouraging the schools community to have their students come forward, participate in a Green Your School event in which the students are encouraged to come back with ideas which can make their facility, their schools more green, more sustainable, and by way of an evaluation process, certain ideas are selected, and also we try and fund them to execute those ideas in their respective schools. So this is one such piece which we are also doing, try to improve the understanding amongst the student community, because they are going to be the future of the country. Last but not the least, for our customers, we have got a set of team which works on improving the existing efficiency of the plant rooms. And that team is called the Advantic team. They work with customers wherein they are able to understand the current state of the plant room, work out what all can be done inside that plant room to improve the energy efficiency, and the customers who are equally interested, they come forward and they work together with us to see what kind of improvements they can get. We have been able to do a phenomenal amount of saving for all our customers, close to about 60 plus to 70 customers roughly is what we have already worked with and executed, and the amount of savings are something which is phenomenal for us. And the last, what I want to speak about is that through, which I said in the beginning, that through our innovation around products and services, we are again trying to see that can we reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So by promoting more of the inverted technology, even on the light commercial side, we have been able to get to some level of savings brought in and some amount of carbon footprint saved. So these are some of the initiatives which we are trying to drive at Carrier globally and back home in India. With this, I would like now to invite Mr. Srikanth from DLF, the Group Head for Procurement and Contracts, to share with us what is it that they in their organization have seen as a change from where they were about 10 years back to today. What is it that they are doing today to make their buildings more sustainable, more energy efficient, and of course a place where the employees, not only their own employees, but also the one who leases the facility, they like to come back to. And now I invite Mr. Srikanth.
A very warm good afternoon to everyone. Thanks to the Carrier team, Mr. Chirag, Mr. Dheeraj, and Richa for having me over, and thanks to AEEE. Well, let me try and give a quick perspective of what DLF as a real estate organization is doing in terms of ESG, in terms of sustainability, and what are some of our goals. To begin with, this is a quick overview of the group. We are present in 4 verticals: residential, offices, retail, and some other businesses like facility management, hospitality. We are a 75-year-old company. We have delivered close to, or DLF has delivered close to 150 plus projects. We've delivered over 330 million square feet across India. And since our IPO, since we went public, we have delivered about 100 million plus square feet of projects. The portfolio is largely between the residential and the rental business that we have. That's a 215 million square feet of business. Out of which a significant chunk, 42 million square feet is our operational rental portfolio. These are all office buildings that we own and are leased out to corporates. We have another 40 million square feet of projects under development. This is both the residential and the office segment together. In terms of revenue, in terms of inventory, we have a 52 billion Indian rupees worth of inventory. Some things that stand out, GLF, we hope is a recognized brand and is a strong brand. We are, not for the sake of saying it, but then we are focused heavily on safety, sustainability, and governance. We are a listed entity, so we are high on corporate governance as well. We have a strong leadership and with a set of experienced people, a strong team as well. Yes, there is a strong promoter commitment or involvement insofar as the day-to-day operations or insofar as the vision of the company is concerned. This was a quick snapshot of what DLF is all about. Coming to the next slide, this speaks more about the targets and the commitments that we have insofar as ESG is concerned, or insofar as the environment, social stewardship, or sustainable businesses. One of the main factors is, while designing and developing new buildings, we ensure that it is compliant to all green building requirements. We have some stated goals. These are, for example, by 2030, to reduce our energy intensity in all our rental assets by about 15%, using, financial year 1920 as a baseline. We also hope to increase renewable energy intensity in all our rental assets by about 20% by the year 2025, again using FY 1920 as a baseline. Water is another key focus area for us. So by 2025, we hope to reduce our water intensity in all our rental projects by about 10%, again keeping the same baseline. In so far as the social stewardship is concerned, so we have we aim and aspire to have a zero harm, each year, resulting in zero fatalities in our operations, including both our operation and maintenance portfolio and our development portfolio when it comes to our assets. Sustainable business, yes, we are obviously compliant with all the regulatory requirements. And by 2030, we are definitely hoping that 90% of our rental business is green building certified. So these are some of our high-level goals. Oops, yeah. Yes, so this is our approach to ESG. Of course, I mean, these are generic, this one, but yes, there is a focus on each of these aspects when it comes to environment, social, or governance. For example, greenhouse gas emission reduction, we have a stated goal there. Insofar as biodiversity protection, conservation, we are very focused there. Water and wastewater management, maybe later I'll try and name a few examples of what we are doing in these areas. Insofar as social is concerned, yes, HSC, human rights, customer engagement, community management, community engagement, wellness, these continue to be our focus areas. And governance, of course, we are an ethical company. We have a set of corporate governance, have independent directors on our board. We also try and aspire to have a sustainable supply chain. So these are large, big ticket items when it comes to our approach to ESG. These are again some goals and our alignment and how are we managing some of these key impact areas. Obviously, ensuring compliance to all regulatory requirements is a given or is a stated requirement. We are obviously also working towards reducing the harmful effects to environment, working towards efficient use of resources such as water and electricity, and how we can perhaps conserve that, or how we can reuse some of this, or how we can look at renewable sources. So that's the next point. I mean, use of renewable energy, and also ensuring health and well-being of all the parties that are involved. These are some indicative slides that show our alignment to some of these UN Sustainable Development Goals. I mean, we have let's say a 3R approach to ESG to strengthen our ESG performance. We are a resilient business, we have responsible operations, and we have reliable engagements. These are some of the achievements, perhaps some of them are worth mentioning. So DLF is one of the only real estate companies to be listed on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index for a consecutive period of 3 years. We are the only company from India, that is. We also have a 97 percentile score. We were also ranked the #1 in India among the listed real estate developers by GRESB. We were awarded this was in the year 2021. We were also awarded the regional sector leader. The GRESB real estate assessment is like the global benchmark or the global standard for ESG benchmarking and reporting of real estate assets. Safety is something that we are very serious about. So we are we've been honored with the British Sword of Honor on multiple occasions. So that is an achievement worth mentioning. All or most of our office portfolio is all LEED certified. health, safety, yeah. And we also have a LEED Zero Water certification for one of our largest developments, that's the Cyber City Gurgaon. It's a 13.8 million square feet development. We have a LEED Zero Water certification as well. So these are some of the achievements worth mentioning. Yes, we have tried to maintain a leadership position when it comes to safety or sustainability. Like I mentioned, so we have a LEED Zero Water certification for the DCCDL is our commercial DLF Cyber City developers, is our office portfolio project. So we have a zero portable water wastage. We are also the first developer in India to get an accreditation for malls and among the highest number of buildings in the world, the LEED Zero certification. We also have a platinum status LEED for cities and communities in the platinum category. So the DLF Cyber City Gurgaon is recognized or has achieved the world's highest recognition of LEED Platinum for cities and communities. We are also the first real estate developer in the world to achieve this platinum certification under the cities and communities category. I touched upon this briefly. We have been honored with 18 Swords of Honor Awards, which is the highest in the world by the British Safety Council. Yeah, this one, fresh air enhancement, this is one of the initiatives. So in all our office buildings in the north, we have changed the fresh air intakes to 2 cycles per hour or 2 air exchanges per hour as opposed to 1. And we hope to emulate this or replicate this in all our buildings in the south as well. So this is at a high level about what DLF is and what are our sustainability goals and what we've been doing towards achieving some of those and what are our goals going forward. Next up, I'd like to just take up a case study which is perhaps a little more relevant to a lot of you here. This is, I'm hoping it's an iconic building in Gurgaon for people who've been there. This is our DLF, building in Gurgaon where all of us are mostly housed out of. So this is a rather old building. So in, I think, 2013, we embarked on a study. Not that, we had, 3 numbers of 120 tons water-cooled chillers. So we did not have a chiller plant manager or a chiller plant optimizer or chiller control system. So we sort of partnered with Carrier to embark on an initiative to make our HVAC cost and efficiency better. So this was a holistic approach that was carried out. It started off with an audit report of our existing, COP. We recorded, this was way back in 2013. So we recorded a COP of 1.47 kilowatt hour per ton. So then we embarked on this journey. We partnered with Carrier. So we went through a complete revamp of the entire chiller plant system, including the plant room, including the cooling towers, pumps. And Carrier then came up with a proposal to replace the 3 120-ton chillers with 2 of 180 ton chillers. And the entire, like I mentioned, it was a holistic approach. We got in a chiller plant optimizer. We redesigned the pump room to a large extent. Of course, this was executed as a turnkey job. And given the height of the building, the plant room location, there were quite a few challenges. The results are here to speak. We've achieved a COP or an AC plant efficiency improvement from 1.46 kilowatt to 0.75 kilowatt per ton. We were able to achieve an ROI of 35%. Again, this is with a 8 to 10 hour operation. This is an office building. This is not a hotel or a commercial, a hospital or something like that, where perhaps the ROI would have been far more, shorter, the payback period. We have also been able to contribute or save about 2.3 million kilowatt hours per year. So this is an exercise that was done not out of compulsion because maybe our existing chillers weren't performing, they were, but we were able to, I mean, we were wanting to consciously do something to achieve energy efficiency, to look at a more sustainable building. So this is the pilot that was carried out, so to say. Of course, thanks to the Carrier team, they really helped put together this, and the results are here to speak. So we were at a 1.47, which is needs improvement on the scale below, and then we were able to get down to a good rating on the scale. This was, of course, way back in 2016 is when we, I think, completed the exercise. And as a result, and buoyed by this success, I think we pretty much have a chiller plant optimizer as a standard, as a norm in all of our requirements. We've, posed that. We have a downtown Gurgaon, we have a downtown Chennai, even in a building that we have done for American Express recently. All of the chillers that we, specify are with a chiller plant optimizer. And yeah, so this is something that's a good takeaway for us, and also for maybe, hopefully, for some of you here in this room. So yeah, I think this is one particular case study that I wanted to touch upon in the brief period that I had. I would perhaps like to, this was pretty much all that I had to speak about. I wanted to maybe keep it a little more interactive. Do we do questions now, or do we do? Close the floor? Okay. You will do the questions now? Sure. Okay.
So thank you, Mr. Shrikant, first of all, for your time and your taking us through the case study and the presentation here. And I think it is very important to understand that it is corporates and it is all of us together who can bring about this change. And it is high time that we really look at energy efficiency as extreme importance. And also it is not just at an individual level, at the corporate level, at a global level. It is a crisis that needs everybody's attention. And since we know that HVAC is consuming the maximum energy, what are the course corrective actions that can be taken to really make the system more efficient? There are definitely ways and means to do that. So it's time to really bring about those changes within our system. With this, I open the forum for the questions. And if you all, in the meantime, you all think of questions, I will maybe start with some of the questions to Mr. Shrikant and to the other panelists that we have here. So Mr. Shrikant, my first question is for you. Since DLF, I think, as we all know, is largely into the leasing business, that's the model that you have. What changes do you see in customers' expectations now? What were their requirements earlier to what their requirements now? How are they different?
Thank you, Richa. So, of course, because our leasing portfolio has largely a lot of international clients, multinational clients. So the bar was set high right from the beginning insofar as their expectations are concerned. Safety is a big concern in terms of energy efficiency. They all want a LEED certified building. Sustainability is high. So these were some of the key parameters that are already factored into our design, into our building design, and we have had a lot of learnings along the way. So we have someone like an Amazon that came in. They asked us to change our entire filters, saying that they wanted an upgrade, of course, post the COVID scenario. So yes, we are largely driven by these customer requirements, and we are trying and let's say factoring this into our building designs, sustainability, green building, certification, conservation of water, energy. These are parameters that are important, and yeah, with each client or with each building, there are learnings that are being incorporated into our building designs as we move on.
Okay, I think we have a question here. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So thank you, Mr. Shrikant, for this case study and presenting the DLF vision and the scale at which you are operating. So I have like maybe a 2 or 3 part question. One is that you talked about engaging with Carrier for retrofitting your, what I understand is your headquarter. Most of the people sit there. So what kind of procurement practices I think you are instituting, which is helping you to do these kind of procurements? And an extension of that is that how do you do these kind of procurements for an owner-occupied building, which is this case? But also I think to follow up on Richa's case, in facilities that are actually occupied by tenants. Because then the second related question is that we are hearing that digitalization is playing a very, very important role. You showed some numbers, almost like 50% reduction in the cooling intensity, and you are hearing that cooling is a pretty big topic, I mean, for India Cooling Action Plan and other things. So going beyond this thing in terms of like what kind of data disclosure, what kind of dashboards, what kind of running numbers, again in your own facility and again in your tenant occupied facility, because I feel that there are probably requirements for green leasing where I think you can compete and you can come out ahead if you have some of these things that you do at your own level. So I would like to hear your thoughts both on the owner occupied as well as the leasing model in which I think DLF operates. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting question. I hope I'll be able to do justice to that. Yes, so the Gateway Tower is our own building, and we started off that as a pilot. And like I mentioned during the course of my presentation, this has pretty much become a norm in all our buildings. I mean, like I said, 90% of our office buildings are all LEED Platinum certified, LEED certified. Energy sustainability is a big focus. I mean, not for the sake of saying it. For example, the same chiller plant optimizer is a standard spec in all of our buildings going forward. A lot of it, like I said, is driven by our own vision to be a far more sustainable, far more efficient company in that sense, and also by our clients. I mean, in all of the leased buildings, in fact, the entire Cyber City buildings now, not just from I'm digressing a little bit. We are undertaking a complete rehabilitation of all the office buildings that are there in the Cyber City area. That's a large 13-14 million square feet. Because it's I don't know, about 8-10 years now, starting with a structural rehabilitation. Again, I mean, Delhi, Gurgaon is a earthquake prone area. So as a developer, we already design our buildings to a zone 5 category, although the norm is for a zone 3. So some of these buildings were done earlier. So we are trying to revamp all these buildings. I mean, this is on the structural part of it, but any sort of, I mean, as we speak, we are doing a chiller revamp in a leased building number 10 in Cyber City. So yes, on a regular basis, we undertake these measures. One, because our clients demand so, and any client would want an energy efficient building to begin with. And two, because with the passage of time, technology, efficiency has been brought about. So we obviously are trying to do this on a conscious basis, with a time frame and a budget in mind. So yes, not just for our own buildings which we occupy, but more so, if I can say, for all the leased buildings. Secondly, the question was about digitization. Yes. So yes, I mean, I think we are living in a world where digitization is a key focus. With all of the, for example, a chiller plant management system that we have, or a BMS, anything that is able to monitor, track data, gives us, gives us data to sort of take action, do analytics, record data, I mean, monitor remotely, to resolve issues remotely. Yes, I mean, we are trying to reap the benefits of living in a digital world and all that technology has to offer. I can't think of a specific case right now, but yes, I mean, as a holistic approach, yes, we are trying to make that a part of our offering and building design. Also the fact that we work a lot with a lot of international clients. I mean, all of our designers pretty much are international, no offense to any Indian designer, but because our office portfolio or office tenants comprise largely of a large number of multinationals, they have a higher set of requirements, let's say. So we try and factor this into our design. And so monitoring and implementing some of those, outputs of the exercise that we do as a monitoring or tracking is something that we are obviously consciously working towards.
Please.
Thank you very much, Shrikant, and very happy to hear that. I think this is a portfolio-wise implementation strategy. And you talked about the monitoring and the metering and kind of like dashboarding and benchmarking. One of the things that AEEE really pushes hard on, and sometimes we struggle on this count, is making the energy consumption data visible and voluntarily. So for a company like DLF, may I request that if you can actually take the leadership in terms of displaying the data and maybe publishing the benchmarks for the leased facility in the office building and put out that what is the energy intensity. I think if for DLF buildings, whether it's mostly I think it's office building or residential, because that will have a cascading impact in terms of other developers being forced to actually meet or match, I think, what DLF is doing. We are doing this for airports. There is a presentation tomorrow where Airport Authority of India is going to be presenting what the benchmark numbers are for all the airports in India. We are also trying to do it for hospitals all over India, but we would seek your help also in kind of being a leader in this space. And maybe I think if we want to actually publish this data by anonymizing building, but this thing, maybe we can also seek your help in kind of like coming out, because that would be really something very, very important at the national level. Thank you.
Very valid point. I mean, I'll obviously take it up internally. I mean, we are a little conservative that way. Not that we are not doing anything towards this. We are doing a lot, but Mr. Dheeraj was telling me, this gateway project was done way back in 2016. Why is it that you or your company has not really leveraged this or put it out in the market and tried to gain some mileage out of it? I mean, yes, we are a listed company. A lot of data is out in the public domain in our annual reports and the like. But yes, point duly noted, even from a marketing standpoint, maybe some of this would help. So yes, I'll certainly take that up internally, and it makes sense, of course, to sort of publish some data like this with the hope to inspire the others to also kind of, come up to that level, and also, make a very transparent disclosure of sorts in that way.
Many of these good companies like Infosys, Shai Export, they publish a sustainability report, which is an eye-opener for the general people, and a benchmark and an aspirational. Does DLF publish that? And otherwise, would you consider publishing that?
Yes, we most certainly do. There is an ESG section in our annual report, which is again out in the public domain. So we have, we are also listed on the the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, and on an annual basis, we do publish our ESG goals and our achievements in regards to ESG. So this is very much a part of the annual report that we bring out. It is again there in the public domain. We don't bring out a specific report in this sector, but yes, as a part of the annual report, this does form a significant section.
Please consider publishing a separate detailed report on sustainability. That will be really very valuable to the people.
Fair enough. Point noted. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I think most of the questions that I had, you'd already covered. It was specifically on digitalization and all of that. So I think this is broadly, I think it's the conversation. It's the conversation and it's the action that's actually making the difference. And one last question that I have is, do we have any digital tools or which specifically support, and fulfill these requirements for other corporates? Do we have any such tools? Maybe I'll ask Dheeraj to join us here.
Yeah, Richa, we do have. Maybe before I answer that question, what I would like to do is help everybody in the audience understand that why a digital tool, what actually goes in the background, what are the expectations and the requirements, and then we come to answer that question, which kind of connects and relates to. If you look at historically how the buildings were designed and how they were meant to operate and how we were operating them, how to look at this slide is it was more to do with more of design and operate. The work probably stopped somewhere there between design and operate. Sustain is a word which came sometime about 10 to 12 years back, is when everybody started looking at it's not only procurement of equipment and a plant room operation, but how do we sustain the performance? How do we look at other aspects which help us not only run the plant room the way it is supposed to run, or with all the dynamics which keeps changing, we also look at can we improve further. So that brought in a lot of work for the designers and the consultant fraternity, because they had to work on a lot of iterations, and manual work around these iterations means loss of productivity. So do we have tools? The answer is yes, we do have tools which enable you to look at lot of alternatives, which is faster design modeling. You can model a complete building, and you can also look at the complete heat loads inside the building. And this, by the way, these tools are not patent to any single organization. This is available all across, and multiple tools are available. So I'm not talking from a career perspective to answer this question. It makes our task easier to look at options and alternatives around technology. What kind of equipment would you like to have for this building, which will work better? And if the load keeps on changing, which equipment fits in better? So the equipment procurement is now no longer a capital buy or a capital purchase. It's a life cycle cost basis which decisions are made, and the work which is done in the background to arrive at that decision is what these tools are meant to be for. And that's how they help. And I'm sure Mr. Srinivasan in his work, when they also decide for technology or equipments or alternatives, the designers are helping them with these kind of tools in preparing and submitting a report, basis which their internal team chooses, and many other such customers and users across segments are making use of these tools. The idea is that can we have these tools used by many rather than few, so that the overall productivity in the industry improves and the usage of equipment for the right applications goes up, efficiency goes up, and that's what the core discussion is all about in this forum today. Thank you. Do we have any more questions? In case yes, please feel free. In case no, then we would like to probably close down this discussion.
I'll offer a few perspectives before we close.
Sure, thank you, Chirag.
I have two roles at least that I'll offer perspectives from today. One is the AEEE role, and the other is the role of carrier. So in AEEE, oftentimes we've been figuring out how do we look at capital being allocated towards energy efficiency projects. How do we understand the financing, and you heard in the previous sessions a lot being talked about this. While there is a conversation going on with the multilateral, bilateral agencies, there are corporates like us who have the technology, but we are not banks, so we are not able to go and finance the assets for our customers. So we rely on customers to be able to take that bet for a life cycle. What I intend to share with you is that this technology that we have put on the ground, which is why the session of bringing it to reality, is not necessarily capital intensive. So first of all, it is not necessarily in the greenfield projects, it's also in the brownfield, in a retrofit. But it is not necessarily replacing a capital intensive chilled water solution or a chiller product in a plant room. What we have gone to doing is putting the knowledge in the plant room through electronics controls, and the latest piece being IoT, digital and data analytics. Now imagine a lot of this conversation is happening around us on artificial intelligence and machine learning. What we actually have in the plant room today is the data that is being processed through machine learning, and that itself grows richer every single day, every single week. So we get better at managing the usage pattern of any building, looking at 8,760 hours in a year, how the weather profile changes across every hour, how the ingress and egress of people, which add loads or reduces load. That is what the machine learning work will be for the future. And the place where we are migrating to as Carrier globally, and as a matter of coincidence, only yesterday to the entire world we have launched for the first time state-of-the-art. This is you can go and Google it and look it up. It's the equivalent of what is going to be the global platform agnostic of any BMS, cloud native, abound platform. We call it abound because it's limitless. Any building, any system can go and plug itself onto it and gets all the dashboards that they want, from indoor air quality to energy efficiency to what Satish was talking about. That this is something that we are struggling with. We're opening it to the world, and we are saying this is exactly where our responsibility comes as a corporation. The reason we're doing that is because we realize that unlike Singapore and Australia as examples, and I'm sharing that as examples, they have a regulation that at a building level, you have to go and prove every year how you are performing. Otherwise, you don't get a certification. Unlike a certification which is a reference point here that I can get a platinum or a gold or whichever it may be, a GRIHA or a IGBC or a LEED, we are really looking at going beyond that. On BEE, there is a building star labeling program. On an ECBC, there is another labeling or a certification. What we are talking about is how do we sustain this? Once any building gets any certification, they are able to go and prove to their authorities tomorrow, this is how we'll be able to do this. It's cloud native, it's digital, it's agnostic to any BMS and technology, so it doesn't matter whether it's carrier or it's not. So that's the responsibility through which we heard somebody talk about in the other sessions. I think it was Bishal or maybe somebody else. This is doing what we do in our manufacturing operations is just about adequate. It's not proactive ahead of the time. So we are using ESG to play offense. That's exactly what we are doing as a corporation globally. We are going ahead and changing everything that we do around this. Not just going to have another reporting, not to have any other connotation out of it for people who are reporting it. We are also reporting it, but I think we have a lot more to offer to the world. And that's what I want to leave this audience with. This is not necessarily capital intensive. It's not necessarily only for new buildings. And it's got a lot to do outside of HVAC solutions onto controls, digital analytics, data analytics, and driven through IoT revolutions that we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chirag, for those insights, and appreciate those inputs to the audience. And with that, we would like to close this session. Thank you, Mr. Srikanth, for making yourself available and taking time out of your busy schedule, and appreciate your insights and input as well. I mean, what DLF is doing today, and you being the pioneer and leader into the commercial space and the real estate business. I think, as Satish pointed out, you can inspire a lot many others in that field, in that trade, by leading with example, as one of the examples you had set, by having one of those model buildings for yourself and then replicating what you learned over there into other buildings for your customers. I think you can do a lot more in that space, and probably we have your commitment to try and see that internally while you have to align, but you will make sure that you do a large part of it. Thank you, Richa. Thank you, Chirag. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Baijal, Mr. Wadhwa, Mr. Srikanth, and Ms. Chabra, thank you very much for this invigorating discussion.